Hi everyone. Hope you all are safe and motivated enough. So today we are back again with again same exciting webinar for all of you guys. But before moving forward, I would request you all to just go through a little housekeeping rules, which I'll just go ahead with it. We all are working very hard to present these kind of webinars in front of you. We feel it is also helping a lot of student communities to understand what this animation industry is all about and how you can get into this industry. So request you all to ask your questions as it is a live webinar. I would request to put in your comments, ask how much you want, and we will be answering and addressing all the relevant questions. Throughout the webinar, you can ask questions whenever you feel like. We will be having particular slots when we will highlight your question and you will be answered. So without let's move forward. I'll be introducing today's guest. So our today's guest is a very well known and eminent personality from Indian animation industry. I feel you all are aware who Mr. Ranjit Singh is. Still, I will take a moment to introduce him. Mr. Ranjit Singh, you may also know him by the name Tony Singh, is a mentor, creative producer, animation director. He was a process consultant on a lot of national and international projects. Just to share his knowledge and experience, he wrote an amazing and informative book, The Art of Animation Production Management. Ranjit sir is now affiliated with a lot of well-renowned organizations in education to guide all our students as a contribution to the Indian animation industry and to create a talent pool for this ecosystem. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Ranjit Singh. Hello, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Late afternoon, I guess. Thank you for having me for this webinar. First of all, I must thank Framework for giving me this opportunity to address the audience, address a large number of people that I see are coming on board. And hopefully we'll have like a fun session today, more in terms of a freewheeling chat, and please feel free, as Vishal said, to ask questions that you may have. We are trying to kind of ensure that we, within the stipulated time, try and cover as many queries as you may have, whether it is related to any kind of specific troubleshooting or related to your careers, related to questions that you may have regarding what to do during downtime, or even how to further your education, even if you may be already working somewhere. So I think it's an exciting kind of subject that we managed to hone in on, and the reason we didn't want to keep it technical in nature or specific to a particular vertical is that the first in the series, we are hoping that this will become a series, is more of trying to get to know what is the general sentiment. So once we get a clarity on the type of topics that people want to address or want to see discussed, then I guess we can come up with dedicated sessions regarding those topics. But today it's going to be pretty much an informal session. So if you want to start up with any specific question, or maybe I can give you a little bit of a backdrop in terms of that I've been involved with the animation industry, for those of you who don't know, for well over 30 years now. And along with the animation industry, I've also been fortunate to be associated with the manufacturing sector. I've done stints there. I've been associated with the NGO non-profit sector, which again has been in the education vertical. I've now also, as Vishal said in the introduction, been associated with several training institutes, uh, purely from a standpoint that I feel that there's a lot of stuff that professionals can contribute from their experiences in the various streams that they have spent their lives in. And what better way than to get involved with institutes and educational schools and colleges, and to give back to the students in the new generation any sort of knowledge that can be of help to them. So, having said that, I mean, at the outset, I'd like to start off by saying that this is a fun field. All right, uh, this is an industry and a craft that is a lot of fun. And the best part is that you have people paying you to have fun. So, so long as you are sincere, you are disciplined, and you are focused, uh, without losing sight of the fact that you are having a good time and you should be having a good time doing whatever area of work that you are doing. Uh, I don't think that there is any other parallel that you can find in any other industry where you can have so much of fun and make a livelihood out of it and make a serious career out of it. So, having said that, uh, one of the things that I think Vishal mentioned to me during our discussions is that where exactly is the industry headed, and we'd like to talk about what all is happening in the industry, so that those of you who are planning to get in, or who have enrolled in courses, or are about to complete their courses, how exactly what lies in the future for them. So I don't know. I think we have some issue with the audio. I'm not really sure how we can solve that. Is there anything we can do about that, Vishal? Or,
Sir, it could be maybe if you would want to connect through a mobile or maybe something like that. It might help right now.
let me see. Is there a I mean, is there a disturbance in the sound? Then
Yes,
it's
sir.
probably something to do with the. I hope it's not background noise.
So
So
it's a disturbance.
let me just check something. Just give me 1 second.
Sure, sir. So, hi everyone. What? So, if you have any questions before starting the webinar, any primary questions, what you would want to address, you can just drop your questions right below, and we would
Is
take
it
them
any
on.
better now, Vishal?
So, a little bit better.
I'm not
So,
really very sure as to what
yes,
is the
sir.
problem here.
So now it is better.
Is better?
Yes, sir. Now it is better.
Okay, so I hope the sound has improved a little.
Yes, sir. So if you sir, just go a little behind, so that I think so it's just because the distance. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry about that. I mean, some things that we really can't. We have to figure out as we go along. Challenging times, so we have to find solutions as we go along the way. So, as I was saying, that in terms of the current state, what Vishal you were asking me, uh, I think that this is an amazing time for animation per se, because as I see what is happening on the broadcast front, what is happening on the streaming front, what's happening on the publication front, what's happening on gaming. Uh, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on. A lot of development work is going on. A lot of creative stuff is happening. Uh, People very often come up to me. Students ask me that should we take up 2D animation, because 2D animation seems to be dead. I don't know where this impression comes in from. I think 2D animation is alive and kicking. In fact, if you look at the majority of shows that you can find on air, the maximum percentage is towards 2D animated shows. So, in fact, one of the things that we do joke about in the industry is that if you want to find a 2D animator, it's very difficult. It's very easy to get a 3D animator. So, it's an interesting development to see that 2D is finding favor again. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening, even internationally. In fact, in the stop motion areas, in the 3D movies area, you're seeing a lot of films that are being, kind of launched purely on the 3D animation platform, and most of them are headed towards hyperrealism or super realistic movies. So along with that, look at the game development area. I don't know how many of you are aware, but recently Unreal 5 was launched, and there was a demo that we could all see, and it's like really mind-blowing work that's happening, in the gaming sector. So, which I think is also changing a lot of the rules of the game, because we've been always talking about 3D animation and as being slightly different from gaming. Also from the standpoint of asset build, from the standpoint of actual execution, from the standpoint of how exactly we handle, textures and images we create, the backgrounds that we create, all the associated art that goes with it. But I mean, this new development has just blown the socks out of everyone. I mean, in terms of if you look at the demo, it talks about heavy assets. It talks about assets which have no concern to optimization and special care and modeling and rigging and texturing and lighting and so on and so forth. In fact, you've got like billion count scenes and interactive lighting in real time. Now, how would anybody even in the wildest of dreams have imagined that something like this would happen? I believe that this is an interesting time. A lot of fun stuff is happening. Open source tools are really kicking in a very big way. Those of you who are familiar with open source will know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are not, for your benefit, open source is basically free software that you get, no license required. You download it, install it, and you're up and running. And it's free for life. And so there's a lot of stuff that is happening in the 3D arena as well as in the 2D arena as far as open source software is concerned. A few years ago, I wouldn't be saying this because the software was not, or the tools were not yet as well evolved in the open source arena. But all that is changing. So the last couple of years have seen a huge shift in terms of how people are even approaching development, how people are approaching this craft, how people are approaching the art behind it. So I think this is a fantastic time to be involved in this craft and in this industry.
So I would just like to interrupt a little bit. So can you move away from the screen as there is yes sir, there are a lot of disturbance happening as you come.
Is that better?
Yes sir, this is perfect sir.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries. I personally feel like asking you one question. If you allow. Out of all of these topics, like you see a lot of people coming on social media and talking about why to start working with Blender, start working with Maya, start working with Photoshop. Why is that you chose this specific topic? Like what is that beyond the techniques? What do you really mean by that?
Okay. Well, firstly, I think that like you rightly said, that everybody is focusing on the technical aspects. So I think there's no point in also being a Me Too there, where everybody's talking about, someone's talking about, tips and tricks in VFX, someone's talking about, Blender, someone's talking about Maya, someone doing a session on Nuke, there are gaming sessions, the technicalities, left, right, and center. I have always been a very strong proponent of, I'm a software agnostic person, which basically means that I do not have any affiliations with any software, because I don't think software is important. I, in fact, don't believe that software is important. What is important is your understanding of the craft and what is your understanding of the basics and the fundamentals of the craft. Software is just a tool. So yes, it will be that what you can do in maybe Photoshop in one way, probably Substance Painter will allow you to do that in another way. Maybe Krita will allow you to do it in another third way. It's not that you will not be able to do things. The only time when you come to a dead end when you say that I can't do this in this software is probably when either the software itself is not that evolved, or you really don't know your basics that well. Because there is always a workaround. There is no one right way to approach a problem and solve it. This is a fact. Okay. So similarly, even with 3D, whether you are working with Max or you're working with Maya or you're working with Softimage or you're working with Modo or you want to work with Blender, if your fundamentals are not clear, if your basics on what is it that you're trying to do are not clear, you're not going to be any better off than the next guy. So I think this insistence on software should stop. Given a choice, I would like to see a lot more focus coming in on holistic learning, which means that there are things which we are not talking about but are extremely important. Yes, software training or training is important. You need to know the tools. You need to know how to use the tools, which is where courses come into play, and specific courses come in to teach you specific things about various tools. But there are also things like the management side of art. There are things like the business side of art. There are things which are about how do you develop yourself as an artist beyond the software. So what is it that and I didn't find anybody addressing those topics. It was like a very similar thing that happened when the lockdown started happening in our country and world over, in fact. I saw a lot of articles being written on work from home, and a lot of people talking about what work from home means. But frankly, I didn't find even one article which was addressing specific areas or specific points in terms of, okay, work from home. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are things that you should be looking at in order to kind of adjust your working style, in order to adjust the way that you're approaching your work. These could be starting points for you to be looking at, so that they can help you transit this difficult period. So that prompted me to write an article myself, and I kind of took what all was, at least it was an attempt to see what all was missing from what people should have been saying and should have been addressing, and trying to put those down on, in front of people. Now, I'm not saying that that is the solution. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but at least it gives you some points to start looking at, examining yourself, seeing whether you're actually doing these things. If you're not doing these things, can you do these things? And if you go to my website, there is a link on my website which is to the article. I posted the article on LinkedIn as well. And if you like, at the end of the session, I can post a link to that article again, which basically is just a collection of thoughts that if you are working from home, this is a changed environment. It's a changed situation. A lot of things are not in your control. A lot of things are in your control. So let's start worrying about what we have in control and just start addressing issues from that standpoint. So instead of saying, oh, well, we have a problem, my approach is always trying to look at it. Okay, what is the solution? So let's try to become a part of the solution as opposed to reinforcing what the problem is. Everybody knows what the problem is, right? So this session, again, in the same vein, was more about, we all know that there are software tools. We all know that there is ample material available, even when it comes to technical aspects. There is a lot of stuff apart from, the webinars, the interactive sessions. There is enough stuff available online which you can look at and you can kind of follow along and do your demos and learn a new craft. To give you an example, 3 years ago, I started after 27, 28 years in the industry working with various different verticals, I started working on open source Blender 3 years ago. And people say, oh well, now we've become old or we've spent too much time in the industry, and how will we learn? It's again just a matter of what is your interest, what is your inclination, how important is that learning for you. And trust me, I mean, it's not really very difficult if you know if you have your fundamentals clear. It's just a matter of applying those fundamentals using a different set of tools, and that is what allowed me to pick up Blender very, very quickly in a matter of like I would say 6 weeks. I was doing some fairly interesting stuff on it, although following tutorials and following teachers online, but still it's a question of uh, just getting in there and giving it a go. So
Sir,
topics that we wanted to talk about here were non-technical because there's a lot of technical stuff available, and we felt that things like what is design management, why is design management important, what is what are the things that are needed beyond the skills that you are learning in your schools and your courses. Are there things that are there which can be learned, which are beyond these kind of skill sets? So that's the reason why we said let's talk about something which is beyond the technique.
okay, sir. So before going forward, can we just take a 5 minutes break and we can just fix the audio thing, if we can, so that our
Okay.
audience would be more, they can understand more better. Sir, so
Okay.
yeah. So Chetal, can you just address the crowd? In meantime, I'll just have a word with Tony sir, and I'll get the things corrected.
Sure.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So, ओके सो आप लोगों ने जैसे टॉनी सर से बात किया, उसमें आप लोगों ने ये फील किया जो हम लोग अभी तक हर बार आपको बता रहे हैं कि यू फोकस मोर ऑन योर बेसिक्स. ओके, सॉफ्टवेयर इज द सेकेंडरी ऑलवेज. सो इसके रिलेवेंट आपको अगर कुछ भी पूछना है रिलेटेड या अपने क्वेश्चंस, प्लीज आप यहाँ पे अपने चैट बॉक्स में कैच करते जाइए, तो वो बेटर होगा ताकि हम लोग आपको एड्रेस कर सके. हेलो. सो यहाँ पे काफी लोग क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं. गुड. ये सब क्वेश्चन को आपका आंसर मिलेगा. सो अभी हेलो देवेश. हाँ, तो जैसे बता रहे थे कि आप लोग जैसे कभी भी आप लोग कुछ भी करते हो तो आपको मॉडलिंग, अगर आप लोग मॉडलिंग कर रहे हो, 3D एनिमेशन में कर रहे हो जैसे सर ने बताया, सो मोर फोकसिंग ऑन दैट क्रिएटिंग थिंग के आप लोग अगर मॉडलिंग कर रहे हो तो वहां पे प्रिफरेबल के आप लोग जैसे क्ले के साथ खेलो, उसका वॉल्यूम समझने का ट्राई करो. ये सब कुछ बहुत जरूरी होता है. जब आप लोग कुछ कर रहे हो तो उसको एकदम डेडिकेटेडली करो. दैट इज द मेन थिंग जो
Chetal
जब
sir,
भी आप लोग. यस
we can just check on Tony sir once.
यस
If
श्योर.
any disturbance.
Hello.
हाँ.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now, Vishal?
So this is much clear.
Yeah, but the problem is that I can't hear you now.
Okay, sir. So, but then this is very clear.
Output doesn't seem to be.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you hear me over the phone?
Sorry.
Can you hear me over the phone?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now on my internals, on my speakers.
Yes, sir.
So is my sound any better now?
So this is perfect. Like, there is no disturbance at all. This is, I think, so we should stick to this settings, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If this is okay, then I think we can do this, because मैंने अभी क्या किया ना, ब्लूटूथ को या वो निकाल दिया है, अपना हेडफोन्स निकाल दिए.
Yes, sir. Sir, this is perfect.
So मेरा जो सिस्टम का जो स्पीकर है ना,
Yes, sir.
मैं जरा एक सेकंड एक ट्राई करता हूँ दूसरा स्पीकर इस पे कनेक्ट, बिकॉज मेरा स्पीकर ठीक नहीं है, सो आई कांट हियर यू.
Okay, sir.
So let me just see if I can connect to another speaker.
Sure, sir. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so meanwhile, I'll address few of the questions.
Yeah, bolo.
So meanwhile you are connecting your speakers, I will just address a few of the questions. Try to solve them.
Can you hear me
Oh.
clearly?
Yes, sir. So now we can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay, so I'm connected on another speaker, so I think that could have been the problem.
Yes, sir. So this is perfect.
Chalo,
I
theek hai.
think-
So let's carry on. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay. So sir, so we'll start with the next question.
Yeah.
Okay. So now nowadays we have so many students who are learning so many different tools. Like Maya is there, Max is there, Blender is there. There are so many different softwares which have been released, and all the institutions are teaching technical tools, like how to use a move tool or how to use an extrude tool. So what is that one thing, what you can say, is lacking in students today?
I wouldn't say that there is, anything lacking in students today, because that's like saying that, what all these institutes are doing is of no use. I wouldn't be presumptuous to say that. I think see, you have to understand one thing. What does a course do for you? I mean, when you go to school, tell me that you studied from, kindergarten all the way till class 12. Have you learned everything that there is to learn? No. It's practically impossible for any school, any course to teach you everything there is to learn about a subject. And trust me, that's not the intent either. There are fixed curricula that schools follow, and these curricula are designed based on general, tendencies of what the market is looking for. It's practically a lot of it is dependent on what the professional market wants. So one of the reasons why in our country 3D animation developed the way that it developed was because there was a huge need for specialist artists at a given point in time when this industry was just about picking up. So it's incorrect to blame courses. It's incorrect to blame institutes that, oh well, they are not teaching animation, they are not doing this, they are not doing that. The fact of the matter is that there is a curriculum that is being taught. The curriculum is being taught by hopefully people who know what they're talking about. I think what students need to understand is that learning does not finish in the institute. In fact, what any institute is giving you is a sense of direction. It's giving you a sense of, okay, this is the 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 path that you want to walk on. Here are some basic things that we will equip you with. We'll teach you these in the hope that you will excel in them, and the curiosity will be awakened enough for you to learn a lot more beyond what we are teaching you here, because it's practically impossible. Even if you take a 3-year course, it's practically impossible for animation, visual effects, gaming, whatever industry you want to talk about. Forget even animation, any industry you want to talk about. You think a 4-year course in engineering teaches you everything there is to learn about engineering, or a 4-year course in architecture? It doesn't. So there is a lot of things that you have to learn yourself. So I'll I'll mention a few things which I find very interesting. That you learn well when you're interested in learning. You have to always remember this. This is a fact. Only when you're interested in learning something are you really going to learn it well. Because if learning is not enjoyable, it's a wasted effort. Trust me.
Definitely.
It's like just going through the motions. All right.
Definitely.
So if you're not enjoying the process of learning, it's like if a teacher is not enjoying the process of teaching, he will never be a good teacher. He will never be able to reach a status of a mentor or a guru. He will always be एक अध्यापक है, ये teacher है, right?
Yes, sir.
How is it that you remember only a few choices teachers from your school days? It's how they impacted you, how they taught you, what they taught you is very, very, minimal in that experience. You always remember how.
Yes,
So
sir.
whether it's a math teacher or it's an English teacher or Hindi teacher or any even Sanskrit teacher for that matter, how they teach the subject comes through from the passion that they bring to it. Now the same thing applies to a learner as well. If you are going to be interested in what you are learning or attempting to learn, if there is a genuine interest, you will learn that a lot better. You will imbibe that a lot better. You will assimilate it a lot better. Secondly, learning is always a process of dialogue. I mean, I fail to understand why people think that learning is a one-way street. That teacher will talk, student will learn, and everybody will be happy. It doesn't work like that. Okay, learning always has to be a process of dialogue, and dialogue means I talk, I feed your imagination, I seed a thought in your mind, and you as the student then push me. As a teacher, you push me to say, okay, I understood what you're saying, but here is what I feel about it, and we have a dialogue. The minute we get into a dialogue, that's when actually the learning starts. That's when the understanding starts. So,
Definitely.
it is said that you have learned well when you actually learn to formulate your own questions. That's when you have
Definitely.
learned well. So just by saying that, oh, I know everything there is to know about a particular piece of software, is not learning. You become a technician, you know. So nothing wrong with being a technician. Absolutely, I mean, we need technicians. But are you a thinker? Are you a troubleshooter? Are you a problem solver? Are you a person who's approaching a problem from a standpoint of not which tool is going to help me to do this, but what is the core of the problem? How do I address the core of the problem? And okay, once I understand that here is where this problem lies, then I'll go and figure out which tool, which set of tools, whether I have to catch my hand, here like that, or I have to catch it like that, or I have to catch it like that. I don't know. I mean, I'll figure it out. And that can only come, not from a course. No course in the world can teach you that. No teacher in the world can teach you that. They can only guide you to it. So if you ask me, why are we talking about these, topics beyond, specific tools? This is the reason that we want to encourage. I personally want to encourage this kind of thinking coming into, students, where your learning starts after the institute. Your learning starts after the course. The course is just, your mind is, look at your mind not as, it's not like a vessel or a glass that has to be filled up with something. Your mind has to be like wood. It has to be ignited. All right. So you have to ignite your own desire to learn. You have to ignite your own passion to learn more than what is being taught. And you have to push the system. Only then will you reach towards excellence.
Definitely, sir. So
So I hope
anything for yes, sir. So there is one more small thought, like
Yeah.
what can you tell or guide us, like from the students from 3D, 2D design, VFX, and gaming industry, to focus more onto? What should they focus more?
See, again, like I said, that if you look at the steps of any personal development, I have always believed that your personal development in this field specifically, along with a lot of other fields, but in this field specifically, begins with observation, and is going to be your biggest teacher, and you have to open your mind up to observation as a pastime. Okay, look, you almost have to make it into a hobby. Now, I have a personal habit, which is that as far as possible, whenever I'm walking, I'm walking through the market or I'm coming back from the market. This is just something very personal. It's a quirk that I learned from someone, from my mentor, and who happens to be is not related to this industry at all. He said, I walk back to my house using a different route every day, if I can. And I found that very interesting. I said, why would you do that? He said, well, there is so much to see. There's so much to observe. And that's the day, I kind of started looking at things. Okay, how many of you know the name of the street on which you live? Have you read the name board on the street that you live? Do you know, which are the connecting roads in your locality? What are they named? Every road has got a name here, right? So in the place where you're living, how observant have you been in terms of what is the kind of architecture of the houses that is there? Even if they are buildings, are all the buildings, do they all look the same? Do they look different? How are they looking different? What kind of color combinations are being used in the various buildings? Okay. What are the types of trees that I have around in the locality? So it's again, like I said, it's a question of what is your interest level. अगर आप सड़क पे चल रहे हैं और आप इतना भी ऑब्जर्व नहीं करते हैं कि आपकी आसपास क्या है, what is around you, then you're not observing. You're basically just going through the motion of walking from point A to point B and coming back to point A. I think you should make that into an opportunity to learn something, which is observe things around you, because the next time you are trying to build a city, somewhere down the line, those observations will be sitting in your head. And they will help you to start designing stuff, which will not look weird. It will look believable because you have seen it, you observed it, you know that a structure looks in a certain way, and somewhere is getting imprinted in your memory. So observation, absorption, saturation. These are the three things that you must focus on. You have to saturate your mind from all walks of life. Whether it is looking at things that are from your industry. So if you're in 3D animation or if you're in VFX, natural tendency of a lot of artists is that if they are VFX artists, they like to look at a lot of VFX stuff. Okay. 3D animators will try to look at a lot of 3D animation performance. Yes, that is good. I am trying to suggest to you, look beyond that. Okay, so just because you're a VFX artist and have an interest in VFX doesn't mean that you should not have an interest in painting. Doesn't mean that you should not develop an interest in music. Interest in dance, interest in theater, interest in, physical activities. Because all these things are growing on you. They are increasing your knowledge base. They're increasing the database that you have of information. Where you are going to use that information, how you are going to apply what you have learned, you don't know. Nobody knows. It's a subconscious thing that happens. Okay. Why do you find that a lot of artists will make something that looks very realistic, believable, while some artists will make stuff and you say, well, this looks fake. It doesn't look real. It looks like there is something wrong with it. The difference is observation. The difference is how keenly has one artist observed the final nuances. And those observations have then come back to play a role in the work that he or she is doing. And this is the key thing that you have to understand. So for an animator, you go watch a dance recital or a dance performance. 99.9% chances, if you have really paid attention to the performance, you really enjoyed the performance, it will make a difference to the way that you set up your animation performance. Because these are subtle things that you will observe without even realizing them. All right. But give a dance performance to an animator who has never created a dance sequence, has never seen a dance sequence, and you will see the results. You will see the results and say, well, doesn't look convincing. So I think a lot of stuff which is ancillary, music, design, architecture, fashion technology, maybe handicraft. I see a lot of technical stuff. There are fantastic programs like heavy engineering programs, and how it's made is a nice program that comes, on Discovery. How does it work? Another interesting aspect. So, woodworking exercises. Not that these are going to help me in animation or they're going to help me in visual effects, but it's just that you saturate your mind. You saturate and absorb a lot of the information that you see in terms of shape, form, color, style, design. patterns, and they get imprinted in your memory. So it's an interesting aspect to kind of pay attention to.
Okay, sir. So your voice has again started to rumble. So
even your voice is cracking now. I think so. This is some transit. Your voice is. I couldn't hear that clearly. The last thing that you said.
yes, sir. So your voice has started to rumble again. So I feel so it is because of distance. We'll see how it goes ahead. So we have few questions from the audience. So first question I would just show on the screen. Saurabh is asking which software best for animation, Blender or Max or Maya?
The only software that is best for animation is here. This
Yes.
is the software that is for animation. How you are going to develop this software and how you're going to develop this tool set, that's going to determine how your animation turns out. Everything apart from that is secondary. It's like let me give you an example. Somebody comes up to an artist and says, oh well, you painted a beautiful picture, what brush do you use? All right, so the writer turns around and says, that's like me saying to you, you've written a beautiful letter, which typewriter do you use? So it's not the tool. Okay, it's not the tool that is going to make a difference in terms of your animation, whether Blender, Max or Maya. I mean, so please get this thing out of your head. The only tool that is going to really help you is up here. Use this.
Yes, sir. So we have a next question from Sneha. So please tell me which are the basic things for animation.
Well, the first basic thing, like I said, which I covered, observation, very important. Understand that animation is not about movement. This is a common mistake that a lot of students make. Animation is not movement. Animation is performance. And if you can understand the difference between movement and performance, you will understand what is the basic change you need to bring about in your approach to creating animation. So for performance, what is important? Basic things. Again, go and watch movies. See how actors perform, how they get into character. Again, watch good characters, watch bad characters as well. Watch good films which you enjoy. Don't shut down a bad film just because you don't enjoy it. Watch it because you'll probably learn what not to do, what's not working. Why don't you like the film? And that should be a learning experience for you. That okay, I didn't like the way the pace of the movie worked. Okay, it was too slow for me. I didn't like the way the camera was set up because it was not defining the action clearly. I did not like the performances of the actors because they were not convincing. So it means that the actors were not in character. You could see the actor and you could not see the character. You couldn't relate to the character. So basic things in animation are nothing to do with the tools. Again, it's about, are you watching a lot of drama and theater? If not, go and do it. Are you watching musical performances? If not, go and do it. Observe people. देखो लोग कैसे बिहेव करते हैं, कैसे एक्ट करते हैं, कैसे परफॉर्म करते हैं. अच्छे एक्टर्स को देखो, बुरे एक्टर्स को देखो, अच्छे थिएटर आर्टिस्ट को देखो, अच्छे डांसर्स को देखो, अच्छे म्यूजिशियंस को देखो. Even when a musician is playing, let me give you an example. If you haven't, take a look at when Ustad Zakir Hussain plays the tabla. उनको ऑब्जर्व कीजिए आप. Take a look at him when he is playing the tabla. He is so expressive. He is lost in the music. He is completely in sync with what he is playing, and he is not an individual at that point in time. He's one with his music, and you can see his face changing. You can see expressions coming. You can see his head falling back, coming forward. He's making all these kind of head movements, shoulder movements when he. This is a performance that he's giving you, and he's so in tune with that performance. And अब मैं आपको कहूँ कि आप एक कैरेक्टर एनिमेशन बनाइए and you animate a tabla player. Okay, the difference will be in your animation will be those who observe live players will know the subtle nuances that they have to put into their performance. Shoulder कहाँ move करेगा, head कैसे move करेगा, कितना ज़्यादा move करेगा, कम move करेगा, you know, hands कैसे move करेंगे, facial expressions क्या होंगे. These are the subtleties that you will observe from a live performer. And then you can use animation to push it a little more, to, you know, play with the tenets like we have, things like staging, things like exaggeration, things like, you know, styling and, action, the follow through actions and, you know, the anticipation actions. You can push the limits there because of the medium to create a more interesting experience. But it still is going to be a performance. So do not look at animation as motion. It's not taking one thing from point A and moving it to point B and then to point C on a timeline. That's the technical way of looking at it. The human way of looking at it is that you are creating a performance. And your performance has to be believable. Your character has to live that performance, which means you as an animator have to live that performance. Only then will you be able to translate it into animation.
Sure, sir. So we have one more question from Vineet. Sir, how to learn more technical things beyond limits?
I mean, this is again a repeat of what we said earlier, that, you know, the courses that you are doing, or if you've done your courses, or if you've done some training of any sort, or you're doing online, you know, learning, whichever way you're picking up these skills, or, you know, these various tools, the idea is to get to a point where you start asking questions, you know, about the tool itself. You start asking questions about, okay, what next? So, all right, I've got a specific tool called, you know, let's say we are talking about a very simple tool like a Boolean operator, all right, in 3D. Now you mastered the Boolean tool and you know exactly how you need to do to use that tool, you know, in various different ways to create different kinds of, you know, modeling solutions for yourself. What next? Can you push it to a level where you come to a head end and say, oh, well, now maybe this is something that can't be done here. So what is the solution? You research, you go and read about it, you find out on the internet, you talk to people who've been around, you know, specializing in those areas, which is why networking becomes very important for you when you're in the community. This is another thing that I feel students need to pay attention to. You're a lot of attention on technicalities, courses, institutes, subjects, and so on and so forth. I think a very good teaching experience or a very good resource for teaching and for learning is the community itself. And trust me, it's a very, very helpful community. I mean, I have yet to come across any artist, senior to me, junior to me, who, if you ask them, look, I'm stuck here, I don't know how to do this, and they'll turn around and say, oh, well, I'm not going to tell you. Nobody does that. Okay, they are happy to help. The point is, are you asking? Do you have the network? Have you made an effort to step out and be visible in the community? Are you joining community organizations and being part of community organizations which give you the opportunity to network amongst, you know, the fraternity? Because there's a whole lot of solutions that you can get to when you talk to people, you know, and people are generally helpful. You know, artists I've found are generally very helpful to each other, so long as they find that there is a genuineness to learn, you know. So you need to also be prepared with the questions that you want to ask. Don't ask questions which are readily, easily available, the answers to which you can do a little research and you can find those answers. That's then, you know, showing that you're not serious about enough to spend time formulating what is it that you want to ask. You've got a simple question, 10 answers are available. Instead of looking at those answers, what you're doing is you're asking somebody because it's easier to ask. All right. Yeah, people will give you the answer, but do your research. So instead of just being on social media to socialize, I think social media also has given us the advantage of a lot of resource pools and a lot of knowledge pools. There is tons of information out there. Trust me. Why do I see, why do I see this kind of little, or why do I have this kind of little disappointment? Because when we started out learning in our careers 30 years ago, there was no internet. I'm going to let that sink in for a little while, okay? There was no internet. Internet was designed in front of us. It came into being in front of us, born in front of us. All right. So how do you think we learned before the internet? Books, talking to people, attending seminars, going to workshops. That's what we did. If we got a chance to, have a word with anybody on an international call, we would grab it. Just that 5 seconds in a seminar. I remember talking to a very senior artist way down in Australia. There was a film called Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, which came out many years ago. I mean, even before a lot of the people in the audience maybe have been born. And they did some technical stuff in that film, which I was working for a company at that point in time, which was at the forefront of technical development. And we had a suspicion that a lot of what they have done is exactly what we've been doing over here. So I was lucky to be sitting in that seminar. I still remember it was at the YB Chavan Center in town, Bombay. That those days it was called Bombay, not Mumbai. And there was this opportunity that this artist was on the line from Australia. And I jumped at it. I just went up to the phone, talked to him, asked him that, how exactly are you doing it? Because this is what we are doing here. And he agreed that, yes, this is exactly what we are doing. So unless and until you talk to people who are doing path-breaking stuff, who are doing interesting stuff, you'll be limited by whatever knowledge you're getting in a particular place. And we all know how limiting that can be,
See, we have a next question from Pooja. Sir, if we are good at both handwork and digital, then what should we approach at? So how to balance between the hand artworks and the digital artworks?
Well, the only difference I find is one major difference, in fact, not the only difference. One major difference is that I think digital makes you a little lazy, because digital has, as my friend Vivek Ram says, digital has the ability for a control Z, okay, undo.
Yes.
Whereas, physical, there's no control Z, there is no undo. If a stroke is drawn incorrectly, it's there. Unless you paint over it, there's no way that you're going to get rid of it, easily. So I think physical is very, very important. Handwork, practical handwork is very important. In fact, I suggest to a lot of my students that even when they are talking about things like digital modeling, they must approach digital modeling like, I'll give you an example. Some of our students were building, furniture, 3D furniture. And one tip that I gave them, not that it's an earth-shattering tip or it's like a, it's a mind-blowing tip. It's a very simple tip. Look at the piece of furniture that you're trying to design and get into the mindset of the carpenter who actually built it. Look at where all the joints are. See how these joints have been put together. And you will start slowly getting into a mindset of how exactly things have been put together, which you can then translate into your digital model. So I always practically believe, I do a lot of DIY stuff. I do a lot of practical work myself. I mean, from carpentry to electricals to plumbing, I like to do all that stuff myself. What that gives me is a tactile feel, So I know what a GI pipe, which is a galvanized iron pipe, I know what it looks like because I've handled it myself. All right. I'm not relying on images. I'm not relying on, theoretical knowledge. I'm not relying on physical, in things that I've seen. I'm not relying on digital things that I've seen. These are things that I've held in my hand. I know what wood grain is. I know when I sandpaper something, what is the kind of finish that comes in. So I'm not saying everybody should be doing that, but physical craft brings a very important aspect to play, which is tactile feel. You get to feel a lot of stuff. It's like, ask your mother when she goes to buy vegetables, why does she pick up the tomato and feel it?
Yes, sir.
Why don't she just take it and put it into the basket? Like maybe a lot of you guys are doing now that you are going, and then you get a little talking to when you come back home. Ki ye kya sade hue tomato le aaye ho, It's tactile. You feel it. You hold it in your hand. You get to see, okay, it's firm here. It's soft here. It turns this way. There are dents here. There are crevices here. So physical interaction, I feel, is very, very important. And if you have the ability for physical interaction, never let go of that. Even if you're working in the digital space, make time to constantly up the ante for your physical work. So even if you paint textures, as a professional in an environment, you're working as a texture artist and you're painting textures, make sure that you get home, take a canvas, take a piece of paper, draw, paint, whatever medium there is. But you must do that.
So we have one more question from Mihir. Sir, can you suggest a book or something that we can read or watch and enhance our mindset towards understanding animation or gaming or VFX?
Again, there is tons of resources available online. If you just take the effort to hunt online for books on animation, trust me, we can spend 6 months talking about them. All right, there is so much of information out there. So me telling you, can I give you one book? There is no one Bible. Okay, sorry to bust your bubble. Even though books may be called the Bible for animators, okay, it's not a Bible. So you can look at Illusion of Life and think that, oh, this is the end all be all of all existence for 2D animation. It's not. Richard Williams has come out with another book, okay, Animator Survival Toolkit. So there is so much of stuff out there that it's practically, it's a waste of time to even discuss this topic over here. Which books should I suggest for animation, gaming, VFX? There's enough resources available. Just please spend time looking for it, going through it, reading it. Knowledge is never wasted. That's another thing. People think maybe I'll pick up this book, I won't learn anything. Well, like I said, if you're interested in learning, you will learn. So don't hunt for a book that will give you the as they call the holy grail. There is no holy grail. That there is no granth which you can pick up and say कि ये मैंने पढ़ लिया तो अब मैं I've reached. We are still learning. At our age, we are still learning every day.
So there is one more question from Vikrant saying, so I could take this question like, can you put a little bit highlights over 2D animation industry? Because since now, as we are all speaking about 3D, there are very less people who are talking about 2D. So any career approach or how anyone could move into that industry?
Well, Vikrant, to you too. I see your little icon over here. 2D has always been a major area of interest for me. I have, as far as possible, whenever I talk about animation, I always, talk about 2D because I think somewhere this is a personal preference. People may agree with it, people may not agree with it, but I have always believed that 2D has something in it which 3D can't match. Okay, no matter how hyper-real you start making things. In fact, when you start going towards hyper-realism, that's the point that I start shutting down from 3D animation as well. So, but that's just me. I'm probably one of the few people who has not watched, the Jungle Book in its new avatar, because I absolutely do not, subscribe to this whole hyper-realistic, stuff on the screen. Because that's just me. I enjoy. I can still watch the original Jungle Book, hands down, anytime. The amount of artistry, the amount of fluidity, the kind of beauty that 2D brings to the screen, I still have to find that in a lot of the 3D work. So, and to answer your question, why no one's talking about 2D, I think again it's an ill-informed question. Look at the majority of shows that you have on air today. You would be hard-pressed to find an equivalent number of 3D shows. It's the 2D shows that are ruling the roost. So don't be for even an instant think about that. Nobody's talking about 2D in terms of, okay, why are we not talking about 2D training? Why are we not talking about 2D courses? Why are we not putting insistence on 2D as a medium to teach? That's a valid question. Even I would like to know why we are not doing it, because I think we've had some fantastic, brilliant 2D animators in this country. And I would love to see them come to the forefront and start teaching, the craft that they have so beautifully taken forward, over their careers. And here's your first student. I would enroll happily in any course that starts on teaching 2D animation, because it's at a different level of enjoyment. So I hear you. I totally hear you. I mean, but trust me, 2D is up there, very much up there. In fact, if you look at the latest release of Blender, I can talk about that because I'm fairly aware of what they are doing. Grease Pencil is a tool set that they have for 2D animation, and it's a game changer. Trust me, it's open source. It's a game changer. But again, unless you know how to create 2D animation, Grease Pencil, Toon Boom, Harmony, call it whatever you want to, is not going to help you because they're not going to draw for you. You have to draw, right?
So next question is from my side, in fact. From all this career perspective of all the students, like we have so many students doing their courses and learning. So when is that right time when they should start planning for their careers? Should they, usually we see students creating their demo reels after the course get over, then they will hunt for the industry, then they'll make specific demo reels. So when is that time they should actually start thinking about?
Okay, let me address this in a couple of let me split this into two parts. One is that it depends on the duration of the course that you're doing. All right, yes. Because not every student takes a course which is a 3-year course. I know there are a lot of students who take up like short, 6-month courses, or they take short 3-month courses, or somebody goes in for a 9-month course or a 1-year course. I'm not commenting on what course is good, what is bad, because like I said, if you're interested in learning, even a 6-week course is good enough for you, because you will push people to teach you what you really want to know. So let's keep that out of the discussion. To come back to the second aspect of that, when should they start planning the career? I think you should be planning your career even before you take the course up, because the course should be, or the learning process should be, because you want to get into a particular area, right? Now, what will happen, and it happens to a lot of us, is that our interests change. Okay, it happened to me personally. When I started working, my interest was a lot. I got a lot of excitement in the area of modeling. So I did, for many years, I used to just model. I would not be interested in anything else. I just wanted to model stuff. And trust me, it was a nightmare because we didn't have the kind of tools that you guys have today. And we didn't have the hardware also to support those tools. But over a period of time, what started happening is that my interest in modeling started waning away. Started kind of, okay, been doing it for enough number of years. What next? I mean, I want to get into something else. So the next thing that I started looking at was lighting. I said, okay, now I want to understand lighting, and I want to get into lighting in a full-fledged way. So interest change happened. What does that mean? That means that there is no full stop to when you can stop and start on a particular thing. You have to find what interests you. You have to find what excites you. It is something that you must want to get up in the morning every day and do. All right. It's like you wake up from the bed and you say, okay, I want to finish that model. Or I, wake up and say, okay, today I want to light one corner of that room and I want to make it look good. Or today I want to paint a few textures which I'm going to use. What is it that excites you? All right. And don't be alarmed if you lose interest in certain things over a period of time and a new interest develops. It's perfectly natural for that to happen. You just have to persevere. You have to be focused. You have to be clear that this is something that is there for the long haul. Okay. This is not a field or a craft that you should be getting in for time pass. So when you talk about career, कब शुरू करना है, career शुरू हो जाना चाहिए before even you think of कि मुझे अब course करना है. That's when your direction has to start. That okay, I want to make a career. Like I personally was very clear that I don't want to get into any of the regular fields. I mean, my background is in commerce, and I come from a family of engineers, and all of them are engineers. I'm the only guy who did commerce. So natural progression was that I would become a chartered accountant. But I was very clear that I don't want to get into that field. I wanted to get into a field which was something different. What it was, again, see, something different. Very scary, because imagine 30 years ago when nobody's even heard about animation and digital animation and classical animation, and the industry is just taking up. At that point in time, I'm standing and saying, I want to hedge my bet and I want to make a career in this area, which nobody knows what's going on in, right? But it forced me to research. It forced me to look. It forced me to, travel all the way from another city, come into this city, find ways and means to get a foothold. Literally work for 6 months without pay, with a very clear mindset. This is my career. This is where I'm going to spend my life. Now, if you're going to have that kind of, passion towards building a career, if you have that kind of commitment towards building a career, then I don't think that's going to come in and, okay, I've done 3 years of my course, now I should start building my shoe reel. If you are doing whatever work you're doing as part of your exercises during the duration of your course, you must also start looking at those exercises that, do I want to put this in my demo reel? Do I think that this could go into my show reel, into my portfolio? So trust me, there is no such thing as, oh, well, this is very bad work in a student portfolio. Anybody who's looking at a student portfolio is also looking at it from a standpoint of, he's not expecting, that he's going to have Pixar quality work there. All right. So let's be clear. People who are evaluating your portfolios are looking for potential. They're looking for your observation power. They're looking for attention to detail. They're looking for, have you painstakingly paid attention to and spent time on areas that are fundamental? Okay. Give you a very simple example. I have seen show reels of animators wanting to apply for jobs as animators, and the character is skating on the ground when he's walking. Now, this is something very fundamental, right? You can't say, well, do I make a career in animation? Okay, I want to make a career in animation. Let me start putting, animation in my portfolio. Pay attention to the basics. Get comfortable with the idea that whatever work you're doing, you have to give it your all. And this is not just for animation, trust me. I mean, this is a mantra that you should be making for life. मतलब आप अभी lockdown के time पे, I would love to meet a lot of the parents, not the students. Trust me. And I want to ask the parents, if they are helping you in the kitchen, are they cleaning up after they finish their work? Are they cutting the vegetables in a manner that you like, or are they doing it just as an exercise? Are they cleaning the house as if they really want to clean the house, or are they cleaning it just because the maid hasn't come in? Point is, are you invested in that activity? If you are invested in an activity, it will show. It will show in your work. तो अगर आप अपना पोर्टफोलियो बना रहे हैं, आप मॉडलिंग पोर्टफोलियो बनाना चाहते हैं, आप एनिमेशन पोर्टफोलियो बनाना चाहते हैं, आप लाइटिंग पोर्टफोलियो, whatever it is, your commitment will show in your work. And trust me, those who are professionals sitting out there evaluating your reels, they have not reached their position, just by ऐसे उड़ते उड़ते नहीं पहुंच गए. They have something behind them. They know what to look for. So I think it's important that you pay attention to detail and invest yourself fully in your career. You will find many artists will change. They start out maybe in the art department. Then after the art department, say, okay, now we want to try a hand out at something else. They get into some other department. But that, again, you have to be aware. You can't say, I spent 10 years in the art department, I've become a very senior guy, now I should get a lot of respect and I should now be given a chance to do animation. No. You are now a fresher for the animation department. And if you have the interest, if you have the wherewithal, if you have the passion, and if you're willing to invest yourself as a fresher, work your way up in the animation department. The point is that don't fall off the bed and want to become a director. It doesn't happen. It takes a lifetime to reach there.
So we have one more question. That is, it is one of my question also. So Abhishek is asking a question: how do we get an imagination on paper while you are not good at drawing? So is formal art education and drawing knowledge important? And if I can't draw, then is it a disadvantage?
This is a very interesting question that we face. It keeps coming back and keeps doing the round again and again. Let's get something very clear. When you say that when you're not good at drawing, good for what? Are you entering your drawing in a drawing competition? Ask yourself this question. Are you entering a drawing that has to be hung in a museum? Ask yourself this question. The point is, you are making a drawing to convey an idea. Does the drawing convey the idea? You can make a stick figure
and convey the pose. You can make a stick figure and convey the action. You can make a stick figure and convey the emotion. So please do not mistake or get confused. Ki I cannot draw like Vincent van Gogh. I cannot draw like Rembrandt. I can't draw like, maybe, the best artist that there ever lived. Therefore, I can't animate. Therefore, I can't, visualize. Therefore, I can't make a storyboard. I don't have any formal training in animation, in drawing, but every time I sit with a client or every time I've sat with a client, there's always been paper and pencil. When the client talks to you, you draw a little frame on a piece of, on the paper, and you say, okay, is this what you're looking at? So you draw a rough sketch. It looks nothing like, a character, but is it conveying the idea? Is the message getting across? So please differentiate and learn to differentiate the purpose of your drawing. If it is to get your idea across, if it is to communicate, is it communicating? Then you don't need shading in it. You don't need light direction in it. You don't need proper anatomy in it. All that is secondary. But yes, if you are drawing to show off your drawing skills, definitely. Then obviously, in a drawing competition, you don't expect to win the first prize by drawing a stick figure, right?
Yes.
So does formal education in drawing help? Yes. Let's lay this to rest. All right. Does it help, and how does it help? Well, it helps because you struggle that much less to create an illustration that can convey an idea. All right. The struggle is that much less. Can you learn how to draw? Definitely. It's a skill that you can pick up. In fact, I was very fortunate that recently a dear friend and a very senior person from the industry, Vivek Ram, he conducted a lot of sessions on, fundamentals of drawing, for artists who can't draw. And it was a fantastic opportunity. I attended all those 3 sessions that he did, and so much to learn in terms of figure drawing. So again, the question is, are you drawing to showcase your drawing skills, or are you drawing to communicate an idea or to get the message across? If you can get the message across, it's good enough. The drawing is good enough for you. All right. So I see one question over here which says, how do students develop a portfolio for storyboarding? Are there any exercises one can do? Yes, definitely there is, developing a portfolio for storyboarding. A lot of storyboards that you can find if you research online. And you should definitely study that how are these storyboards, how have they been done? How has the storyboard artist approached the subject? What is the story that he's trying to convey? And has the story been conveyed clearly enough for you? Okay. Along with that, take a look at a lot of, there are scripts, there are resources that you can get online on scripts. Try to visualize those scripts yourself. You can get screenplays, which are even better, because screenplays have a lot of description in terms of time of day, in terms of action, in terms of performances. So that can be a very good start for you to get an idea on how a board can be, put into play. It's very important that you find, again, like I said, a good mentor, network, walk through your network, find out people from the industry who can give you critique your work. Tell them that this is the board, or this is the story that you've been developing, or this is the ideation, visualization that you've been developing. Not necessary that you tell them what the story is. Just show them the board and ask them, can you make out what I'm trying to say here? Can you figure this out? And I always say this to a lot of students: do not show this to family members. Don't show it to your girlfriends and your boyfriends and your brothers and sisters and your mothers and fathers, because you're always going to get a very emotionally strung up, review or a response. What you need to do is to show it to people who understand the craft. You need to discuss it with people who are good at the craft, get critique from them. I see a lot of students putting stuff up on Facebook and social media, and then one guy is going to put up something and 10 others are going to say, oh, brilliant stuff. And when you're looking at it and saying it's not even worth discussing. So ये mutual admiration society जो है, इसको थोड़ा सा कम करो. अगर आपको critique लेना ही है, आपको advice लेना है, आपको फीडबैक लेनी है तो ऐसे लोगों से फीडबैक लो हु नो द क्राफ्ट. तो अगर कोई अच्छे एनिमेशन डायरेक्टर हैं उनको अपनी परफॉर्मेंस दिखाओ और उनसे क्रिटिक लो. अच्छे मॉडलर्स हैं उनको दिखाओ अपना काम और उनसे क्रिटिक लो. आई हैव डन दिस लिटिल एंड ट्रस्ट मी, most artists, like I told you, are more than happy to give you some advice and some feedback on the work that you're showing. You know? So storyboarding is you can practice a lot. You can show stuff. You make your own small stories and send out the board for critiquing to see whether what you have done is that understandable for someone who doesn't even know कि आपकी story क्या है.
So we have one more question. This is on to management. Like whenever we see all of these big projects happen, and there's one of the question also from our viewers. How do you build a storyboard for an animation? So I would like to take it in a very bigger fashion. Like how do you manage the art, or it might be simple as storyboard also, or maybe a small animation clip also. So how do we design manage?
I'm not very sure if I understand what your question here is, because it says how do you build a storyboard for an animation. Obviously the starting point is your script, is your story that you have, and you have. There's one thing that I can definitely tell you which helps is descriptive writing, which is that when you are kind of building your story, or when you're building your let's say script, I like to do a lot of what is called visual writing or descriptive text, which goes like this, that if I have to talk about time of day, let's say for instance I want to say it's a cloudy night, I would in my writing try to encourage myself to say, okay, it's a cloudy night, what is the color of the sky, what type of clouds are there. I would like to describe that in my writing, so that I get a sort of flavor of the scene that I'm trying to set up. Okay? What is the cast of lights that I see in the frame, that I imagine in the frame. So when you start doing a lot of descriptive writing, in terms of actually describing what you are seeing, and you write that down on paper, it becomes that much easy then to translate that into a drawing, into an illustration, because you are actually practically writing down the scene on a piece of paper. One exercise that I can suggest that you do is, can you hear me, or is there some problem with the voice?
So there is a little bit again, the rumbling again started. So I don't know,
this is probably something to do with the network, I think.
Yes, sir, that is something to do with the network, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is it any better now?
So a little bit, but again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. So we can hear you, but then again the voice is rumbling a lot.
Even your voice is also not clear to me. So I don't know. There's something in probably some network issue.
Network issue, sir.
It was clear all this while.
So my voice is, I think, so clear to the audience.
No, even your voice is not clear. I can't hear your voice clearly.
Okay, so then it is definitely a network issue, which you might be facing. Okay. So as we have depleted the whole webinar's time, we have, we understand that you are a busy person, and we would not take a lot of time from you. We have already been finished up with our time which we have allotted. So we have, there are so many other questions which are going on in our audience's minds. I would request all of you guys, we have shared a feedback form which you can give your details up with, and if you have a great response, we would possibly want one more webinar with Tony sir. Sir, can you give us one more time of yours where we can get into one few specific kind of a question, or maybe one specific targeting one specific genre? It would be really great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I saw a question over here, I think on the top somewhere, from I think our friend Sachin.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about story writing, in animation. And
Okay.
One of the things that I really enjoy teaching is visual storytelling. And Sat Sri Akal to you too, Sachin. Fantastic to have you here. It's a beautiful question. I think visual storytelling is something that I also enjoy teaching. It covers a lot of ground in terms of from an idea to conceptualization to visualizing the story. Because a lot of the times what happens is that story. I mean, I look at storytelling is what? Storytelling is connecting with an audience. Okay, it's when you can draw the audience in to the story that you are talking, that you are telling them, is when I personally feel that the storyteller has succeeded, with me. So when I watch a film, uh, if I am able to get into the film, if the storyteller is able to draw me into such an extent that I am actually part and parcel of what is happening, then I have really got an immersive experience with the story, right? And I feel connected to the story. I can relate to it. So from an idea, I see a lot of students come up with that we've got an idea, but we don't know how to convert it to a story. Or I get these questions about, well, there is this concept, but we really don't know how to develop this concept into like a full-fledged story. So we can definitely conduct sessions on storytelling. We can do a general webinar also. People have got more questions if they want to ask, and we can collect those. I'm more than happy to kind of give time. Right? Uh, there are things which we can cover in terms of for those who are interested in some maybe very basic fundamentals of digital computer graphics. We can talk about nuts and bolts. What goes on behind the scenes. We can do sessions on that. Uh, we can do a session on even some uh, basics of design management, which will cover a whole lot of things like personal time management, workflow management. How do you manage your projects? How do you ensure that you get things done on time? Uh, so variety of things like communication, things people are not talking about, negotiation. I mean, who's teaching the art of negotiation in schools?
Yes,
And a lot of students are going to go out there, whether it's negotiating for your salary package or it's negotiating with a vendor to do a job for you. There is an art behind it. Talking to clients, front-ending, jobs with clients, to make them understand what you can do, what they want, whether the two of you are on the same page. So, a lot of these subjects are topics, like I said in the beginning. This is not a technical session precisely for this reason that nobody's talking about these aspects. Everybody's concentrating on, like, our friend said, we will talk about 3D. We see a lot of people talking about only technicalities. I want to slowly drive attention towards these kind of areas. That let's talk about storytelling. Let's talk about story development. Let's talk about visual description. How do we take an idea? How do we convert it into a story? How do we then take it to a storyboard? How do we board that idea down? So a whole lot of things can be talked about, and then wherever specific technical requirements come into play, we can get. I'm sure you guys will be able to source the right technical strength for that. Those people can then come in and show the craft of exactly how it's done. But craft के पहले उसकी जो theoretical aspects जो समझना जरूरी है, the things that are important to understand, I think we can definitely address those issues. I mean, decision making is one very big area that nobody talks about. And I would love to see students pay attention to what exactly is decision making, because that's what you're doing day in, day out when you're working in a professional environment. So there is a method to decision making. A lot of thought goes behind how exactly you make a decision which has far-reaching consequences, and which is why I say that your schools, colleges, institutes are the best place for you to make mistakes, because real life is very unforgiving when it comes to mistakes. All right. So if there is a control Z, if there is an undo button, that undo button exists while you are in your institute. So make the most of it. There's this lovely person who talks about teaching and learning and student behavior. A gentleman by the name of Sir Ken Robinson, and he says a very beautiful thing which kind of like hung with me. That if you're not prepared to be wrong, you're never going to come up with anything original. All right, and this is like a mantra that you must take on, uh, you know, uh, as a life mantra. That unless and until you're prepared to fail, unless and until you're prepared to fall into the ditch, unless and until you're prepared to say, okay, let's move ahead, let's see what happens. At the most, what's going to happen? We're going to fail, right? Our intent is not to fail. Nobody intends to do any project with the viewpoint of saying, yeah, I want to make sure it fails. Nobody does that, right? Everybody wants the project to be the best project. But the point is, you will come across things in life where you will fail. How do you handle those failures? How do you turn them into opportunities to learn? What have you learned from it? That's your learning. So there are so many things we can talk about in terms of IC institutes, yours included. When we do because we are called as industry seniors. I don't know why they call us industry seniors, because we are also still students and we are still learning. But somehow हमें बोलते हैं आप आके jury करो आप, judge our films. Our students have made films, and frankly, I'm going to be like a little no-holds barred here. I find that a lot of the films lack basic connect. A lot of the films lack basic storytelling techniques. They lack basic conceptualization and ideation of what exactly a story should be. It's not about the execution. A lot of you may have seen some years ago there was this six-figure animation that somebody had done in Flash, where this character keeps playing with the interface of the Flash software. It's just a stick figure that keeps running up and down the screen, and he's like interacting in a very fantastic way with the entire interface of the Flash software tool. So it can be as simple as that, but it's engaging. It's something that hooks you. You keep looking at it. You keep saying, okay, what next is he going to do? You become part and parcel of that experience. So trust me, it is not rocket science. ये storytelling को बना के एक ऐसा हवा बना दिया गया है कि there is only few people who can tell stories. Trust me, when each one of you today, look back when you were a little child. Okay, I have I have a memory of the fact that I used to have a T-shirt which used to say, "I was doing very well in life till education ruined me." Okay, and that's a fact. Somewhere down the line, we somehow tend to overcomplicate ourselves. We are all storytellers. Okay, each one of us, there is no such thing as geniuses in life. Everybody is a genius. Okay, everybody has got something unique that they are going to bring to the table, that they can bring to the table. You have to believe in that fact कि तुम वो एक uniqueness table पे लेके आओगे. What is that uniqueness? You have to find, and that means going that extra mile. That means taking that extra interest. That means investing yourself that much more. आप बचपन में stories नहीं सुनाते थे क्या? आप बचपन में जब स्कूल जाते थे, जिसे हम कभी कभी गप भी कहते थे, ये तो गप मार रहा है, राइट? अरे ये तो ऐसे ही बना रहा है. ये बना रहा है क्या है? आपकी इमेजिनेशन है ना. आप एक इमेजिनेशन में एक सिचुएशन क्रिएट करते हो, उस सिचुएशन को इतना बिलीवेबल कर देते हो कि एवरीबॉडी इज लुकिंग एट यू विद रैप्ट अटेंशन. Why is it that you lose this craft as you finish your 12th, or you've come out of school, you suddenly lost your craft of telling a basic story? आपको अगर रियली टेस्ट करना है अपनी स्टोरी टेलिंग एबिलिटीज, एक छोटे बच्चे के साथ बैठ जाओ एंड कीप दैट चाइल्ड एंगेज विद द स्टोरी फॉर हाफ एन आवर. आपको पता चल जाएगा कि आप कितने बड़े स्टोरी टेलर हो. And give a little child a story to tell and tell them to weave a story, and you will see how imagination flows. Anything is possible in their life. Anything is possible in their world. All right. So why are we constraining ourselves? So trust me, it's not rocket science. It is not something difficult. It can be learned. There is a structure to it. There is a methodology to it. You just need to put the pieces in the right place and approach it in a structured way, and it can become a very simple and a very enjoyable exercise.
Yes,
so, like Sachin's question, that should we not have people presenting these kind of stuff? Definitely they should. I mean, I'm quite disappointed at the fact that we don't have sessions on this, and where you see, this is the other thing. A lot of us are also disappointed in the fact that इतना ज़्यादा insistence tools पे है कि हम बेसिक्स को we are not paying attention on the basics. We are not paying attention to what is actually required.
Yes, sir. Sir, it is
Okay,
also,
so
sir, what I would like to add in is I also feel is like it's so much of these all software tools or companies have brand marketed themselves so brilliantly over internet and all of these online educators that they are insisting more on tools like learn Maya, learn Max with the professionals. They're never insisted on saying you can learn modeling as a skill or learn how to make hyper realistic or maybe a particular genre of textures. Maybe that could be one of the reasons.
देखो, again I will say a very simple thing. People are running a business, okay?
Yes, sir.
Unless somebody is coming and doing something for free,
Yes, sir.
okay? People are running a business. You can't fault them for running a business. You can't
Yes.
say ये गलत business है. आपको किसने जबरदस्ती थोड़ा बैठाया उस कोर्स में?
Yes.
आप आंख बंद करके उस कोर्स में गए हो, राइट? आंख खोल
Yes.
के गए हो ना, कान खोल
Yes.
के गए हो, एटलीस्ट जाना चाहिए. आंख
Yes,
खोलो,
sir.
कान खोलो, लोगों से बात करो. द पॉइंट इज इट्स नॉट अबाउट कोर्स में क्या सिखा रहे हैं, गलत सिखा रहे हैं या सही सिखा रहे हैं. करिकुलम क्या है यार? 3D एनिमेशन का करिकुलम क्या है? इट्स अ स्टैंडर्ड करिकुलम वर्ल्ड ओवर,
Yes, sir.
राइट? द
Definitely.
पॉइंट इज इतना उसके बियॉन्ड एफर्ट ले रहे हो.
Yes, sir.
आपका विच इज व्हाट आई टॉक्ड अबाउट इन द बिगिनिंग, दैट हाउ इन्वेस्टेड आर यू इन दिस, हाउ मच आर यू पुशिंग द सिस्टम, हाउ मच आर यू गोइंग आउट एंड सेइंग ओके ये तो ठीक है यार, कोर्स में मुझे दिखा रहे हैं कि ये टूल से क्या होता है, वो अलग बात है. I am going to not get limited by this. I'm going to go beyond this. Are you doing that? Right? So don't fault a software company has to sell software, my friend. You can't
Yes,
blame
sir.
them for it. You can't
Definitely.
fault them for it. सर सॉफ्टवेयर पुश किया है, इसकी वजह से हमारी एनिमेशन खराब होगी. Sorry, I don't trust that. I don't buy that at all. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's
Definitely.
like saying, that's like saying that the government is pushing for primary education, तो इसकी वजह से हमारी एजुकेशन खराब होगी.
Definitely.
Not that.
Right, sir.
People are pushing education, people are pushing tools, people are pushing what they can bring as solution. It's up to you how you take that solution and use it to multiply your own knowledge, and whether you get limited by that tool or you get kind of let's say liberated by that tool is entirely up to you. ये fact है कि tool से आप कभी artist नहीं बन सकते.
Got it, sir.
इस बात को जरूर समझिए कि टूल से आर्टिस्ट नहीं बन सकते आप टूल सीख सकते हो, आपकी आर्ट एनहांस हो सकती है. बेसिक से यू कांट रन.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think so. We are done with all the questions, and I think so. This session was really, really exciting, and as well, it was really motivating. Also, all our students, all our viewers, I feel we are really motivated to learn more things into this session, when it comes to animation.
Vishal over here, which I find quite interesting, I can see that nowadays watching movies which contain VFX totally different, means we can find out the mistake and can't enjoy the movies like back in school. I'm not really sure what Pawan is trying to say here, but trust me, I always tell my students that whenever you watch an animation film or you watch a VFX heavy movie, watch it twice. ये कभी एक गुरु मंत्र दे रहा हूँ, maybe it will work for you. Watch a film twice. First time when you watch it purely from an entertainment point of view. Does the story excite you? Do you get involved in the story? Do you enjoy what you're seeing on screen? Don't get into the technicalities of it. कैसे किया होगा, ये कहाँ किया होगा, ग्रीन स्क्रीन पे होगा, मॉडल बनाया होगा, लाइव किया है, मिक्स किया है, भूल जाओ. Leave that aside. Okay, it's like I always say, if you really want to enjoy a Govinda movie, दिमाग थिएटर के बाहर रख के आओ. Okay, दिमाग लेके थिएटर में मत घुसो अगर गोविंदा की मूवी एंजॉय करनी है. Because they are fantastic movies when it comes to performance. They are fantastic movies when it comes to the enjoyment factor. It's mindless stuff that is going on. It is illogical stuff that is going on, but you enjoy it. I mean, some people will swear by it. I think his comic timing is brilliant. If you really want to understand comic timing, you must watch him as an actor, as a performer. But you don't watch his films to start, theoretically breaking them down into, oh, logically ये नहीं हुआ, अरे ये अभी तो यहाँ था, suddenly कहाँ चला गया, अभी तो ये घर पे बैठा था, अब now suddenly the scene has shifted to a dance sequence in Singapore, ये क्या हो रहा है? If you're going to start, what I call intellectualizing a movie like that, you will never enjoy it. Okay, so if you are watching a movie for purely the fact that you want to understand the technicalities of it, that's a different aspect. Then yes, you are anyways not sitting in that movie to enjoy it. Okay, my personal feeling there is you're sitting in the movie to try and understand ये कैसे किया होगा, कितना अच्छा किया है, कितना बुरा किया है, कुछ mistake आपको दिख रही है, नहीं दिख रही. You're basically then going there with a magnifying glass, which is a horrible way to see a movie, if you ask me personally. Okay, but yeah, people like to do that. There are enough books on making of. There are enough online tutorials that you get now, which most studios put up, which are behind the scenes of how movies are made, how sequences are shot. You can take a look at that and understand, okay, ये कैसे किया था, and how exactly they managed to pull off a very complicated shot like this. Many often time you will find in today's date and time, you think that this is all live when all of it is CG. It's done that well, so you never really, kind of figure out कि ये CG था, and it's a shock to you. Oh hell, ये CG में किया था इन्होंने, right? So my advice to a lot of my students always is, दो बार देखो picture. First time, try to watch it by keeping your technical hat outside. Okay, don't be the director, don't be the actor, don't just be an audience member. Okay, go in, watch it purely for entertainment factor. मजा आया कि नहीं आया? Did it grab you? Did you get an immersive experience? Did you really live each and every episode in the film? Was the film able to draw you in as a performer in the story? Watch the film from purely just आप entertainment के लिए जाते हो. Then, if you still have the kind of interest factor, and if you have that whole this thing, I want to see कैसे किया है, do your research, find out online how they did it. After you studied it online, okay, this is how behind the scenes they've done stuff. Watch the movie again. Now you're doing it from a standpoint of trying to learn. Okay, how did they pull this off? All right. So yes, I agree with you that sometimes when you come to know कि if you see it beforehand, ये तो CG में किया है, you may not enjoy it. I think you're over complicating things for yourself. It's like people commenting. This is again now this is a public forum. I don't know whether I should saying it or not, but a lot of people commented on some films recently that came out. Typically, let me name one film called Kabir. Okay. People talked about how it is glorifying this and how it is negating this and how it's talking about bad behavior and kind of. It's a film, for heaven's sake. It's a story. These are characters in the story. It's a make-believe world, all right? And in that make-believe world, if you have come away being affected so heavily by it, by the performances, I think you should be giving a gold medal to the actors then. That उन्होंने इतनी अच्छी performance दी है कि you are actually believe that this character exists. Now, watch the film for that performance. वो देखने के बजाय आप उसमें नेगेटिविटी निकाल रहे हो, आप उसमें क्रिटिसिज्म निकाल रहे हो कि ये तो गलत चीज दिखा रहे हैं. अरे यार फिल्म बनाई है, उसको क्यों उसका भड़ता बना रहे हो? इट्स अ फिल्म. आई मीन वॉच इट फॉर एन एंटरटेनमेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. हाँ, अगर एक सोशल प्लेटफॉर्म पे कहीं पे अगर कोई टॉक हो रही हो ऑन बिहेवियर विच इज अनएक्सेप्टेबल and somebody were to come and say that, well, this kind of behavior is unacceptable and here is an example, I would still be okay with it. That you're taking an example of a character which is misbehaving or behaving in a way which is not acceptable, which is not done, and you're showcasing that as something that should not be done. Let's understand, let's not mix, the issue, the performance, the story, and the world of make-believe. Okay? And if you tell me honestly, anybody honestly with a straight face, can they tell me कि जो चीजें उस फिल्म में दिखाई हैं, क्या ये नहीं होती हैं real life? It's like saying, let's not make a film on rape because then we are encouraging rape. People will watch a film on rape and rapes will start happening. Come on, it's something that happens in society, and you address it. How do you address it? If you watch a sequence, look at all the films in the earlier times. आप रंजीत को फिल्म पे देखते थे, my namesake, one of my favorite actors. The guy who's probably committed the most physical assaults on women, in the history of Indian cinema. Bollywood का Badman, Gulshan Grover, right? So क्या वो फिल्में देख के society has degenerated? This is taking it a bit too far. A lot of things, they say films are a reflection of society. Storytelling is a reflection of society. So आपके इर्द गिर्द जो हो रहा है, that is enough ammunition and fodder for you to create stories. Now it's your choice. Do you pick up the negative aspects that you see around you and you make a film on those negative aspects? Or do you pick up the positive aspects and you make a film on the positive aspects? Just because somebody picks up a negative aspect doesn't make him a lesser or a bigger filmmaker than somebody who picks up a positive aspect. I think that is something that we should be very sensitive to, and we should respect the choices that people are making. और अगर किसी कैरेक्टर में इतनी ज्यादा नेगेटिविटी आपको दिख रही है स्क्रीन में कि आपको उस कैरेक्टर को देख के घिन आती है, आई थिंक यू शुड देन बी लॉर्डिंग द परफॉर्मेंस, यू शुड देन बी अपलॉडिंग द परफॉर्मेंस कि इस कैरेक्टर को इतनी ब्यूटीफुल तरीके से पोर्ट्रे किया गया है दैट आई एम नॉट सीइंग शाहिद कपूर anymore, I am seeing Kabir on screen. But does that mean that Shahid Kapoor is that kind of a character? Far from it. So, I mean, let's try and see what is it, which realm are we in? Yes, there will always be good versus evil. ये तो इतिहास से होता आ रहा है. आपके रामायण में क्या है, महाभारत में क्या है? It's good versus evil. तो इसका मतलब क्या? We should not talk about these texts because ये evil के बारे में बात करती हैं. That's being a little foolish, yeah.
Yes,
So I hope, I've been able to answer Pawan's question. I know we got a little sidetracked with the movies, but the fact that yes, watch a movie from technical interest if you really want to get under the skin. Watch a movie from entertainment point of view if you want to get under the skin of whether the storytelling is good, whether you enjoy it from a story perspective, whether you enjoy it from a point that is the filmmaker, are the characters, have they been able to touch you in a way that you have gotten involved with the story to such an extent कि आप भूल गए आप थिएटर में बैठे हो. Okay, that's the best example. Okay, whether the characters are well thought out, whether they are well fleshed out. I mean, my favorite example that I always give is a movie which a lot of you may have seen. I'm surprised when a lot of young students say हमने नहीं देखी है. चपत लगनी चाहिए इनसे students को, जाके देखो. Is a film called The Old Sholay. Okay, I think it's an iconic film where from story to art direction, camera work, cinematography to costume design to performances, characterization. आज तक आपको ठाकुर याद है, संजीव कुमार नहीं याद है. आज तक आपको गब्बर याद है, अमजद खान याद नहीं है. आज तक आपको सांबा याद है, राइट? आपको मैकमोहन याद नहीं है. ये है स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट. तो आप ऐसे कैरेक्टर्स जब डेवलप करोगे, ऐसे कैरेक्टराइजेशन जब करोगे, जब ऐसे कैरेक्टर्स लिखोगे कि एक्टर को भूल जाए, वो ये भूल जाए कि ये विशाल ने एनिमेशन बनाई है, बट उनको ये दिखे कि यार ये एनिमेशन में जो कैरेक्टर है कॉल्ड व्हाटएवर समीर और रोहित और व्हाटएवर, दैट गेट्स एम्बेडेड इन योर हेड. दैट्स व्हेन यू नो दैट यू एक्चुअली कनेक्टेड टू द ऑडियंस. That's when you know that you've really been able to reach out to them, So, which is why they say that as an artist, you have to live the role of, and animation allows you to do this. This industry, this field that you're in, you have to wear the hat of an animator, a director, a performer, a choreographer, a dancer, a light, director, DOP, cinematographer, art director, costume designer, everything. Sound designer, music director, even a musician. So this is the one field and one I would say area that allows you the flexibility to play all these various roles. So I'll come back again to that whole point of being invested. Investment means this only कि अगर आप एक फिल्म बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, एनिमेशन शॉट बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, are you invested in this across the various multiple verticals, or are you only concentrating कि नहीं मैं तो सिर्फ मॉडलिंग करना जानता हूँ, मैं मॉडलिंग करूंगा, छोड़ दिया, बाकी मेरी फिल्म का कोई मेरा लेना देना नहीं. You can't do that. You have to be invested 100% in it, in all fields, and take an interest. Take an active interest in all this. I remember, just as an aside, I'll tell you, uh, I was once working with a music director, and we was a small, TVC that we were doing, and he was, making the music for it. And he looked at me and he said something that has always stayed with me. And this, I'm talking about some 25 years ago when he said this to me. He said, I always find it fun to work with you when you bring TVCs, because I don't have to struggle to put things in meter with you. Your films are already edited to meter. Your performances are edited to meter. How do you do it? And my response to him was that, it has been always an interest in music, different types of music. So I don't limit myself कि मैं सिर्फ classical सुनूंगा. I enjoy classical as much as I enjoy heavy metal, as much as I enjoy electronica, as much as I enjoy, fusion, to Sufi, to Hindustani, to Western classical, to Indian classical, everything across the board. I mean, if music has to be something that if it sounds good to you, forget about what genre it is. Okay. Now, what that does is, when you take a subject, when you take a short film and you're looking at the story, automatically somewhere down the line, the instrumentation starts coming to your mind. Okay, how would I structure the music for this? What kind of background sound would I use in this scene? What would be the voice, character of my performance? So voice characterization is a very important tool for us animators. तो कैरेक्टर जो है उसकी वॉइस कैसी होगी, मोटी होगी, पतली होगी, हाई पिच्ड होगी, लो पिच्ड होगी, ग्रटल होगी, क्रैक्ड होगी, makes a huge difference to the performance. So when you start thinking sound, when you start thinking orally, जैसे कहते हैं oral capacities, and you have a mind that is constantly being saturated from various aspects, कि आपको सूफी म्यूजिक भी सुनाई दे रहा है, आपको इंडियन क्लासिकल भी सुनाई दे रहा है, आप वेस्टर्न क्लासिकल भी सुन रहे हो, आप different types of instruments सुन रहे हो, and you are enjoying the beat, the rhythm, the harmony, the vocals. When you get into that space, it starts showing in your work. So जब हम फिल्म बनाते थे, टीवीसी बनाते थे, स्टोरी बोर्ड बनाते थे, तो ऑलरेडी थिंकिंग फ्रॉम अ साउंड पर्सपेक्टिव कि इसमें हम इंस्ट्रूमेंट क्या यूज करेंगे, म्यूजिकली इसको कैसे ट्रीट करेंगे, और वो चीजें फिर दिखती थी. व्हेन यू गो इनटू अ साउंड स्टूडियो, द डायरेक्टर टेलिंग यू दैट वेल, it's a pleasure to make sound for you because we're not struggling that much. The sound design is almost ready made for us in terms of the direction that we want to take. So this is again where holistic learning comes in. This is again where interest in various different fields comes in to help you in your work and to push your work to the next level. Okay, any good animation director today, aap Vaibhav Kumaresh ko le lo, very very dear friend. I love the kind of work that he does. वैभव जी के साथ बैठना इज अ प्लेजर बिकॉज वो गुनगुनाते रहेंगे, he'll keep humming some song or the other, he'll hum. हम लोग कई बार बाहर गए पिकनिक्स पे, where we've had singing sessions, where we've had music sessions. अब he's an animator, you say यार ये एनिमेशन फिल्म मेकर ये गाना क्यों गा रहा है, इसको गाने में क्यों इंटरेस्ट है, या गाने से क्या फर्क पड़ता है. इट शोज इन द वर्क. वो काम में कहीं ना कहीं निकलता है वो चीज, आपकी वो सेंसिबिलिटीज विल ऑलवेज हेल्प यू.
So any more questions you would like to address, or viewers, do you have any final questions? We can take finally last two questions is what we can address. So any relevant questions you have, please put it in the comment box. So I think so. It was a great thing and a very informative webinar today. And we would like to have you once more, but on a very particular and very precise genre or precise topic which we could elaborate on. So guys, there's a small request. If you want Tony sir back, and if you want any specific topic to be spoken, then we have shared a small form which is in the description. You can just click on it, and just a 4-question form. You can fill it in. And hopefully we'll be conducting this similar kind of a webinar which you are expecting. That would be more relevant to what you want to ask. So I feel it's a time for goodbye, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for being with us and sharing all your experiences and all your
Well,
knowledge.
pleasure is all mine. I enjoyed. I hope this session is being useful for people. I know at the outset we said it's not going to be a technical session because I like to call myself as technologically challenged. Even though I like to tinker with technology, but it's there are a lot of things which go beyond technology, which I think students should seriously start looking at if they are not already, and they should invest a lot of their time, given the fact that there are so many avenues for knowledge available today to you. Please utilize those. Please make the best use of the technology that is available to you today in terms of information, in terms of the tool sets that are available, the tutorials that are available, and don't ever think for even an instant that tutorial se hum kya seekh sakte hain. Lot of stuff I am learning from tutorials. Okay, so if you think that I have learned everything there is to learn, not at all. I haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg today. So many areas. I mean, I see questions over here. Some people are asking questions on match moving. Sorry, the only match moving that I have done has been match moving without tools, where frame by frame बैठ के हमने literally हम उसको गधा मुजीर बोलते थे कि frame by frame बैठ के हम tracking करते थे चीजों की using any sort of 2D software. So अगर match moving में बहुत ही अच्छा आपको let us say you want to excel in something like that, here's a quick tip while I go away. Take any short 25 frame clip and go into any vector program that you can get and trace it frame by frame. Don't use a match moving tool because that's easing your life out for you. When you trace it frame by frame and you play it back and you see whether there is any kind of slide, any jittering happening, any mismatch happening, then you will know कि आपको कितना attention to detail पे ध्यान देना है. What is the importance of attention to detail then? Well, that is the way that we used to make match. Okay, जब उस जमाने में जब match moving नहीं होती थी, हमारा test of a new trainee used to always be कि नया trainee आया है, इसको पहले बैठाओ मैच बनाने के लिए, और उसको हम फुटेज देते थे कि अब ये 10 सेकंड की फुटेज है, विच इज 250 फ्रेम, 250 फ्रेम, बनाओ इसके मैट. And then you superimpose the mat on the live footage and you play the footage back together and you see कहाँ आपका मैट जो है स्पिल ओवर हो गया है, कहाँ मैट अंडर हो गया है, कहाँ वो शेप बदल रही है. ये डिटेलिंग जो है जब तक फिजिकली अपने हाथ से नहीं करोगे, अगेन देखो टूल पे इंसिस्टेंस करोगे तो टूल बहुत सी चीजें लाइफ में आपको लेजी कर देगा. आप बेसिक नहीं समझे कि कॉर्नर पॉइंट्स कहाँ हैं, पिनिंग कहाँ करनी है, विच आर द इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट्स विच यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड, जहां से रिलेटिवली हमें मोशन पकड़ में आ सकता है. तो ये चीजें तभी आएंगी ना जब आप उसको फिजिकल तरीके से करोगे और ब्रूट फोर्स टेक्निक से करोगे. अब ये कहना नहीं है कि ब्रूट फोर्स इज द वे टू डू इट. कई लोग इसको गलत मतलब निकाल लेंगे, तो सर इसका मतलब मैच मूविंग नहीं करनी चाहिए, ब्रूट फोर्स से करना चाहिए, दैट इज बेटर. देयर इज नो बेटर और वर्स. आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू दैट देयर इज अ वे इन विच यू कैन होन योर स्किल्स. One good exercise that I give to students, which I tell them कि अगर आपको ट्रेसिंग सीखनी है तो क्या तरीका है ट्रेसिंग सीखने का. कर्सिव टेक्स्ट, यू नो व्हाट कर्सिव टेक्स्ट इज? टेक्स्ट जिसमें सेरिफ होता है या सेरिफ टेक्स्ट. टाइम्स रोमन इज अ फॉन्ट. टाइम्स रोमन फैमिली का कोई भी टेक्स्ट ले लो, एक कैरेक्टर स्क्रीन पे टाइप करो बराबर 72 पॉइंट 160 पॉइंट पर बराबर उसको कैरेक्टर को टाइप कर लो, कुछ लेटर आर डी टी, पहले सिंगल स्ट्रेट लाइन जिसमें है उनसे स्टार्ट करो लाइक ए, then go to the one which have got curves in them, और उनको ट्रेस करके देखो using the minimum number of points. अगर रियली अच्छी पॉइंटिंग करना जानते हो, करना चाहते हो, तो यहाँ से शुरुआत करो. एक लेटर लेके, लेटर डी, डी फॉर डॉन्की, डी लेटर को वेक्टर लाइन से ट्रेस करके वन ऑन वन ओरिजिनल इमेज और आपकी ट्रेस इमेज उसके ऊपर डालो. एक पिक्सल का भी शिफ्ट नहीं होना चाहिए. कर सकते हो? आर यू विलिंग टू इन्वेस्ट दैट काइंड ऑफ टाइम? ये है ट्रैकिंग. ये है हार्ड ब्रूट फोर्स से ट्रैकिंग. अब इमेजिन करो ये की कैरेक्टर जो है ये स्क्रीन पे हिल रहा है, नाच रहा है, 1 सेकंड का फुटेज है. क्या आप फिजिकली उसको की फ्रेम्स लगा के ट्रैक कर सकते हो कि वो बिल्कुल आपको 80 पिक्सल इन या आउट ना दिखे? तब आपको समझ आएगा कि एक्चुअल मैच मूविंग में एक्सपर्टीज कहाँ है. नहीं तो सॉफ्टवेयर में चले गए, ये बटन दबाया, कॉर्नर पिन किया, आपको क्या पता पीछे क्या हो रहा है. फिर आप उसको ट्वीकिंग करोगे, आप कहोगे मैं मैच मूवर बन गया. तो उसका कोई इलाज नहीं, उसका कोई इलाज नहीं. तो इसलिए आज maybe I might not be able to explain the software technology of match moving to you because I've never used it. But I can definitely explain to you कि fundamental level पे अगर मैच मूविंग सीखनी है तो कैसे सीखनी है, उसका मैंने आपको टिप अभी बता दी है. आप खुद ट्राई करके देखो. ये चैलेंज मैं देता हूँ पूरे आपके जितने आज अटेंडेंस हैं, किसी का भी फर्स्ट शॉट में 100% मैच मूव नहीं होगा. फिजिकली करके देखना, मैच मूविंग भूल जाएगा. और जब तक करते रहना, जब तक इस चीज को आप पकड़ ना पाओ, और जब तक आपका 100% वो मैच 100% हो ना जाए, then you will know how painstaking the work is. Then you will know what attention to detail is. Then you will know the difference between good work and exceptional work. That is where the difference is. Attention to detail. तो अगर सीखना है तो सिंपल तरीके से सीखो ना.
So your voice again went blaring. So let's there are a lot of requests from all our viewers that we need one more new webinar with Tony sir, and that usually happens in all of your lectures. Like me personally, when I also attended your session, I also used to tell you, sir, one more session. So on that case, hats off, sir, for being such a good mentor, and this is something which we, as all the students, we need today.
Yes, I mean, I would, like I said, let's try and now get a little more specific if you are interested. Find out what is the general, whether people want to do a session on maybe, story, idea concept story, if that is something that we want to do a session on. But I would not want this to be, a session which is very loose. We want to keep it slightly focused.
Yes.
So, if you are very interested, I am always happy to make time for anybody who can even, I don't know so much, okay? Let me figure out something for you. I know very little. I have very little knowledge. I have very little expertise. I don't know why people feel that I know a lot. I don't. But whatever little I know, if I can share it with you and if it can help somebody, I am always happy to make time for it. Provided you are serious. So अगर आपको सीखने में इंटरेस्ट है, I can guarantee one thing, मुझे सिखाने में कभी हिचकिचाहट नहीं होगी. Whatever I can. I mean, I can't guarantee that if someone give me some VFX heavy technical question and tell me इसको solve करो, I mean, try करूँगा. Probably I don't know how to do it. But that's all right. I mean, there is a point that comes where you can't learn everything about everything. You can learn a lot about something. So it depends on where your interest is. ऐसा नहीं है कि VFX का काम नहीं किया है, कंपोजिटिंग किया है, VFX किया है, एनिमेशन किया है, लाइटिंग किया है, मॉडलिंग किया है, रेंडिंग किया है, you name it, right? यहाँ तक कि फिजिकल हैंडवर्क भी किया है. So the point is you tend to take on certain interest areas and focus on those interest areas, right? So I can talk about the topic, definitely. I'll share whatever I know. Maybe it will help you, maybe it won't. No guarantees.
Okay, sir. So thanks for having you.
Thank you so much. Once again, be safe, all of you. Stay at home. Don't risk stepping out. I know it's a difficult time. Make the most of it. This is a fantastic time to practice a lot. Fantastic time to get online and get under tutorials and follow the tutorials. Fantastic time to interact like this. I hope we get to do more of these. So make the most of it. ऐसा time बहुत मुश्किल से मिलता है. So don't cry about the
Thank you, sir.
So it's an opportunity.
Bye, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you soon, sir.